Ladies and gentlemen, we have this super amazing game that was played in 1975 between Bobby Amazing Bishop Fischer and Mark Taimanov. Bobby opens with e4, Mark responds with c5, the Sicilian defense, got knight f3, knight c6. Bobby then strikes in the center with d4, we have takes and takes, and we have queen to c7, which is the floor variation of the Sicilian defense. Bobby develops with knight c3. We have e6, which is known as the Taimanov variation, named after a very strong Russian GM called Mark Taimanov. e6 does a few things. It prepares developing squares for the dark squared bishop, and also controls some forward squares for a white's knight. We get g3 from Bobby, so we can expect bishop to g2 and castling to the king side. First we get a6 from Mark, controlling the b5 square to stop the knights from bothering his queen. Bishop g2, knight f6, so both sides just developing and preparing to castle. We have castles and takes and takes. And now Mark develops his bishop to c5, hitting the queen. And as you know from Bobby's previous games, never move your queen if you have a better move to play. So we get a counterattack with bishop to f4, now hitting black's queen. d6 from Mark, which is the best move, because if he took in the previous position, you would have gotten the following line. So let's say if he takes some exchanges, you get this line, and it's plus 1.6 for white, and black's king is a bit stuck in the center for the moment, with white activating his rooks and having a fairly more comfortable game. Going back, like we said, d6 from Mark, which is the best move. Queen to d2. We have h6 controlling the g5 square, which is stopping white from going to h5 and taking the knight with damaging the pawn structure on the king side for black. We now have rook to d1, so now we have a pattern on the d file with 3 attackers on the pawn, while only 2 defenders. So you get e5, defending the pawn and eliminating 1 attacker while also attacking it. Bishop to e3, Mark develops his bishop to g4, hitting the rook. Bobby finds the best move, which is first taking. In this position, it would be a mistake if black took the rook, because you get the following line. Moving on, taking, attacking the queen, hitting the bishop. And we get the discovery attack on the queen, damaging black's pawn structure, and a +7 according to the bar. So that's why you shouldn't take the rook. Now going back. So we have takes, and then we get Ben Feingold's move, f3 to chase away the bishop. Bishop back to e6. We get f4 from Bobby. From a beginner like myself, it seems you're sort of giving yourself 3 pawn islands if black takes the pawn, but it's actually very bad if black takes the f pawn, because you get the following. And b3 controlling the bishop square, and according to the bar, white is up plus 2.5, so taking the pawn is bad for black. So we got f4. Now we get rook to d8, attacking the white queen. Knight to d5, blocking the attack while simultaneously improving the knight. We have takes and takes, and we get the best move from Mark. Taking pawn is bad because of the following line. So if you took instead, then you are just in trouble. So again, +4 for white, so that's why it's bad to take that. So we had takes, got the best move. Now rook f to e1, pinning the pawn. Rook takes on d5, attacking white's queen. And obviously, you know from Bobby's previous games, you never move your queen if you've got a better move to play. And so in this critical position, what would you do? If you move the queen, you're worse. Here's a couple of examples. Let's say you went queen to c3. See the bar going to -2. That's bad. Let's say you do queen e3. Also bad. If you do queen to c1, also bad. If you get queen to e2, also bad. So all the queen moves are bad. So we have captures on e4 with check. Note if the knight recaptures, you are in trouble as black. So if you take it, run into the following line, and many issues for black. 1, the king is in the center. 2, double attack on the b pawn. 3, your h rook will have difficulty entering the game. So we had takes, king to d8, queen to e2, we have takes and takes with check. Mark blocks with his queen. We have takes and takes. Pro tip here is to analyze the position before going into an endgame. Bobby starts with his attack and plays rook to e5, defends with a pawn, bishop to f1 attacking another pawn, a5, bishop to c4 attacking another pawn. We have rook to f8, king g2, now Mark centralizing and Bobby also centralizing the kings. Now we have knight to d7 attacking the rook, rook to e3, knight to b8. We have check, king to c7, and c3 is a prophylactic move, sort of taking away key squares should the knight be coming to c6. So we have knight c6, rook e3, king d6, and a4, controlling the b5 square, making life difficult for black's backward b pawn. Knight to e7, h3, knight c6. With h4, Bobby's putting his pawns on the opposite color than his bishop, which means that the opponent's pawns will potentially be targets later on. So that's a pro tip. We have h5, rook d3 check, king c7, rook now attacking the pawn. We have f5, rook d2, rook f6, rook e2, and then couple of moves. I want to get to this particular point in time where we get the first blunder, ladies and gentlemen, from Mark. He was getting himself out of the pin, preparing to move the knight, but this is a blunder. So now Bobby's trying to force a rook trade. Mark doesn't take the rook, but waits for Bobby to capture it first so that he can improve his king. We have takes and takes. King d3, knight e7, and a couple of moves, check. Now Bobby bringing in his king to attack the pawns on the queen side. King to c6, check. King to b7. Bobby improving his king, and also pro tip in the endgame, always improve your king. We have knight to c8, which is sort of setting a trap if a bishop takes the pawn. So if you take the pawn, it's mate in one. So instead, Bobby played bishop c6 check, king c7, 5, moving the king around. We have Bobby's king improving. And now we can see the effect of having your opponent's pawns on the same color as your bishop. So Bobby's got an amazing bishop. Knight to e7, bishop e8, king to d8. And it was in this position, ladies and gentlemen, when there was a song playing in Bobby's head which made him go into a deep think. And we see this from GMs all the time when they are reaching a critical position. Ladies and gentlemen, after a long deep sleep, Bobby sacks his bishop as he understands that he's picking up the pawns on the queen side, and that black's knight is going to have a hard time first attacking his g pawn and then his f and h pawns in order to promote. And we can say the bishop went out fighting with such remarkable and amazing grace. Pro tip, make meaningful sacrifices, guys. We have knight takes on g6, we have takes, Mark's king coming in, we have takes, we have b4, and this is another pro tip to create connected pass pawns where possible. We have takes and takes, and the pawns are dangerous. Knight to c8, 5, knight to d6, Bobby pushing with b5, knight d4 check, Bobby improving. We've got Mark also going into a very defensive position. King to c6, king b8. Ladies and gentlemen, and Mark resigned in this position. It's mate in 15 and would have played out as follows. b7 check with a pawn sacrifice in order to promote the b pawn. So we get takes and promoting. Now we get a fork. You pick up the knight and just bringing in your queen and king to work together. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel.